Hi everyone, my name is Amy Rose. So sorry about the delay. We are currently getting some speakers onto the stage who are having technical issues, but we are going to start straight away. I will bring our speakers to the stage. This is the Global Digital Asset Regulatory Summit, and we're going around the world. Today, we have Leah Callon-Butler, who is going to moderate a session on the Philippines, Indonesia, and Vietnam. So I'm going to bring them up to the stage now.
Five seconds.
Hello, everybody. We are so glad to join you. Despite a few technical difficulties, we're here now. So great to be joining this fantastic DECA event. Oh, fantastic. I think we've got everyone now. Quick introductions. My name is Leah Callon-Butler. My company is called Emfarsis. I also write a regular opinion column for CoinDesk, which is usually about Web3 gaming adoption across Southeast Asia. And I sit on the board of the Blockchain Game Alliance. In a past life, however, I used to focus on crypto AML. So that's why you're finding me here today. And I'm very much looking forward to leading this discussion. We're going to be looking at a bit of a comparative analysis of different policy approaches to policy formation and regulatory framework development across the Southeast Asian region, with experts from the Philippines, Indonesia, and Vietnam. So I'm really looking forward to this. We've got Asi Kaningsi from Indonesia, and we've got Quynh from Vietnam, and we've got Mark Garcetta from the Philippines. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Apologies for the little name tags down there. Some of us do have the wrong name tags. Perhaps we can update in the chat, DECA, so that everybody knows who they're hearing from. But without further ado, let's jump straight in. I would say that Southeast Asia is almost like a patchwork quilt of regulatory frameworks. So I'm very interested to hear the difference in terms of approach by each country. I was thinking, just to set us off, maybe each of you could give us a bit of an overview of the current state of crypto regulation and the legal frameworks in each of your countries, and how some of these recent updates has actually influenced growth and adoption where you are. So who would like to kick us off? Perhaps Asi from Indonesia. Would you like to start off there?
Gladly. Yeah, can you see me?
We can, yes, all good.
Okay, cool, because I cannot see myself. Well, thank you
Great.
again for thank you again for your kind introduction. So yeah, I think to answer the first questions, it's going to be fair to also, share a little bit about the history of the association. So we started the association in 2017, and there were only like seven blockchain related companies back then. And we realized that actually really good decision to have the association in place, because back then I remember there's this huge attention we got from the regulator side, since Bitcoin reached its new all-time high back then, and then there's a spike of users in Indonesia. So that's also the time when our regulators starting to want to understand, like, what is this animal. So we started to work with them, working with them as a partner on drafting new regulations, until on 2019 crypto is classified as commodity in Indonesia. And from there, the policies that we have been evolving, even until now. We also have tax for crypto, and I think what we just had recently is a new constitution which classify crypto as a financial instrument. And we also just recently had a regular sandbox for blockchain innovation. So I think this is really bringing a new, horizon for the industry. The users, starting to understand that, okay, this is something that they can trust because we have regulation. This is really bringing legitimations to the products and services. And also in 2022, our ICT ministry, they also come up with a new code for business identification. So every companies in Indonesia, if they want to have an entity, they have to pick one code that is based on their core business. And there's an optional code where they also can add, like the technology that they use, something like that. And then we had a very specific code for blockchain development activities. And the data that we had recently, that we have more than 2,000 companies that registered under this code. So we see that the growth is really positive. As I mentioned, that on 2017, when we established the association, there were only like 7 companies, but now there are more than 2,000. Although I think that's not fairly represent the industry, because first, I don't think that the code is socialized enough, because it's something new also for our ICT ministry. So they're still like trying to understand how to embrace all these companies. And the second thing is, this code is optional. As long as you have your core business and use that code for your core business, you don't have to put this blockchain development code. So again, I can see that there are a lot of big companies, banks, even the ministries, government bodies are trying to implement the technology. So yes, I agree that a good legal framework really helps the industry to grow. What we have in Indonesia, is it perfect or ideal? Well, debatable.
Thank you so much. It's a fantastic overview. Mark, what's it like in the Philippines? I'm lucky enough to be here myself, but maybe you can give us an update on the current state here.
Sure, Leah. Yeah, hi everyone. Leah, nice to see you again. I'm sure you're very familiar with respect to the Philippine legal and regulatory landscape. But by the way, yes, there you go. My name is changed already. So I'm Marco Riseta. So I'm part of just to introduce quickly, I'm part of the Blockchain Council of the Philippines. I'm a trustee and chief legal and corporate secretary. I'm also a lawyer here, fortunately or unfortunately. We counsel to a lot of tech and fintech firms, entities in the Philippines. So back to your question, Leah, briefly, I'm sure you know this, in the Philippines, we are believe it or not, we're one of the early adopters of, our regulator, one of the early adopters of blockchain technology. They embraced it early on. In 2017, as you may know, Leah, our central bank came out with regulations which I guess similar to other jurisdictions, right? But as far in the Philippine context, in 2017, our central bank categorized or issued circulars pertaining and with respect to regulations of virtual currency exchanges, now called virtual asset service provider licensed entities. Basically, it falls under a money service business provider, wherein basically it allows an entity to exchange crypto to fiat and fiat to crypto. I think in 2020s or 2021, they changed it to a virtual asset service provider license, wherein, of course, it allows also custodianship function, right, for these entities. In the Philippines, if I'm not mistaken, there are supposedly 19 licensed entities by the central bank. But out of the 19, I think the central bank has been clamping down, right? I think only 6 or 8 are active. As you may know, these are the coins.ph, PDAX, so on and so forth. And they've issued one virtual this kind of a license to a bank, which is Union Bank, as you may know. So that's for financial services. So now we go to the Philippines. We have a very tricky securities or investment regulations. So that would fall under our SEC, or Securities and Exchange Commission. Basically, we pattern our securities law under US laws, right? So anything that is perceived to be a security should pass through the SEC. So back then, I'm sure you know this, Leah, 2018 or 19, our SEC came out with draft rules pertaining to the then ICOs, right? Initial coin offerings. And of course, thereafter, after like a 12-month period, they came out with the digital asset exchange rules. But now they released a draft digital asset security service provider regulations, which appears to be the enhanced and consolidated draft guidelines on the DAOs and DAEs, which have been reformulated to account for the lessons brought by market shaping crypto events, particularly in the collapses of notable global players. So yeah, a lot of things happening here. And of course, we could talk about it later. We have also the sandbox regulatory framework from the central bank or even the SEC. But the sandbox framework approved just this May the first stablecoin project under coins.ph. But we can talk about that later further.
That's awesome. Fantastic developments there. It's interesting to see too, you know, quite different developments, but very distinct moments on the timeline where I think we all match up around those sort of financial spikes where people kick into gear and think, okay, we're going to need some guardrails around this. Now let's move to Vietnam. I'd love to get a bit of an overview of the landscape there. Yen, do we have Quynh to join us? Oh, sorry.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for send the invitation for the Vietnam Blockchain Association. And my name is Yến. Today we're very happy to introduce with you guys about the Vietnam Blockchain Association and let you know about the landscape of the Vietnam. At the moment, we are the only one of the blockchain association in Vietnam. We have the approval by the ministry, and I think it a little bit different with another country in Vietnam. If you wanted to register the association, you have to have the approval from the government, and we are the only one in Vietnam at the moment. And with the first official organization in legal entry, gathering those skill and research and apply blockchain technologies throughout the Vietnam. So we are the only one, the legal bridge between the Vietnam blockchain community and the government to have to build a legal framework for Vietnam technology industry, and even though to have the development that industry in Vietnam too. Yeah. Well, for talking about the landscape in Vietnam, we have some quite nice research and like the reports of the Chainalysis. At the moment, we are in the rank of the 7 global with the 7.4% of population owning the crypto access. And even though we already received over 120 billion of crypto assets from 2022 to 2023, and at the moment we are the ranking we're ranking at the 7th of the global. Yep. And even though one number interesting is we already the investor reach about over 37.6 billion in 2023 in Vietnam. Yep. And they got over 1.2 billion in the profit in there. So at the moment, we not yet have any legal framework about the digital asset or cryptocurrencies, but we still in the hotspot of the global, and we receive a lot of the investment from all over the world to come to Vietnam.
Yeah, that is really fascinating. It is such a different perspective. And I thought one of the things that I learned, I didn't realize that you have to get government approval to have an association in Vietnam. Very interesting. So I think in other countries, regions, even globally, a lot of the time the association representation is quite fragmented. So that's very interesting where you have sort of an official one that's government mandated. So very interesting. So for this next stage in the conversation, I've got an individual question for each country. So I'll pose it to you, but if anyone else, any of the other speakers would like to jump in, comment, add maybe a different perspective, please feel free to do so. I think these things are a lot more interesting when it's a bit more of a normal flowing conversation. So go for your life. But Asi, I wanted to ask you first, from what I understand, Indonesia has been quite proactive in terms of updating its regulations and adopting blockchain mapping, things like that. So I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on that and how it's shaped the ecosystem in Indonesia, and also how the local blockchain association is contributing to this.
Right. So again, as the association, I think we're doing pretty similar tasks, supporting the industry to grow and, helping the members. I think that's also what we think is very important to identify what they need to grow. So to answer your questions, I guess for now, there are two things I always mention is whenever people ask, like, what do you do in the association, because our main focus basically are two things, right? The first thing is doing regulatory advocacy. That's what we do a lot. We try to be an official partner, just like Vietnam does, partner of the regulator. And in Indonesia, we used to have two associations as well. One is the Blockchain Association, and we also have a Crypto Exchange Association. But then we also understand that this industry is very, it's safe to say it's pretty new, and there's no urgency to have two associations. So we merged, right? And I think that really helps to, have all the same voice in one association and bring it to our regulator. Because what I see is that in terms of working with regulators, they tend to feel more safe to discuss with the association instead of having a separate discussion with one, let's say, industry player, and then have another discussion with another industry player because it could be biased for them. So they actually really like to have a discussion with the associations. That's one thing. And what I mentioned earlier as well, before even our members really mentioned they have issues, we try to be more sensitive to realize what the industry needs, what they actually need, and most likely it will be related about regulations, because what from the experience what we had, there are a few companies that we know are very innovative, but then because back then we don't have a clear regulation in place, so they have to establish their entity in other countries, which is very sad, right? And now we're talking about these kind of issues to our regulator, and they understand okay, so now they are more open, I guess. They try to involve as many industry players as possible. They always want to know what can they do more. That's why we have all this regulation now in place, right? So I guess talking about the role of the association, a regulatory discussion with the regulators are really something that we think is very important. The next things also what I think is very important is the educational literacy. I guess as blockchain is growing, crypto now, gaining a lot of attention, and then talking about the use cases, we know that there's a demand of talents, and it's very hard now to generate more talent. So that's also what we have been trying to achieve. For example, this is actually a funny story. So we have been working very closely with a lot of universities in Indonesia, and we try to push them let's have a blockchain major, in their university, and they're very keen to have it. But there's a process that they have to go through. For example, they have to make sure that they have a good program, and then how they also do their marketing. So the students, the high school students can get into the major, right? But then they did this kind of marketing to high school, and then they introduced it. They're going to be a new major, blockchain major. But then the students, they don't okay, but they're not really interested. But when you talk about AI, it was okay, of course, because I use ChatGPT every day, right? But then when it comes to blockchain, is that I don't really use it, something like that. So there's this kind of also challenges that we faced. So again, as an association, we try to address this kind of challenges. We usually go to universities. Now, probably you should also go to high school or have a new program where, in high school, they can already realize what the use of these emerging technologies, so they can, pick when they get into university. So I think these two focuses that we have been very, into the regulatory partner, now regulators, and also doing educations and literacy.
So interesting what you were saying about the need to kind of build blockchain's brand against indirect competitors like AI. I feel like that's something that probably everyone is dealing with. Did anyone want to add to what Asi was just saying there, or otherwise we'll move on to Vietnam? All good. We've got Quynh. Ian, did you want to take this next question, or will you add in Quynh? I think he's backstage. Oh, here he is. Maybe you can even chat together. Welcome, Mr. Quynh Do. I'm so glad you're able to join us. Thank you. Are you able to hear me? Oh, hello.
Can you hear me okay?
We can, yes, welcome. And you're just in time, perfect timing. I had a
Very
question.
sorry with my technical issue. I have no idea what happened.
No worries at all. We all had a bit of technical issues, but you're here now, so that's all that matters. And it's perfect timing because I had a question for you. I think Vietnam has definitely been a market that has been identified as somewhere for crypto expansion for a lot of companies, whether it's adoption or perhaps even talent acquisition. I think there's a lot of development happening in Vietnam. So I was wondering maybe you could elaborate a little bit on that. You know, what are the main factors that are contributing to this trend? And in terms of developing a legal framework, you know, what needs to happen to be able to drive that even further forward?
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for your question and allowing me to join the event. I think, as you may know, that we have about 100 million population, and more than 60% of our population, they are young people. Yeah, so we have a very young population, and I think we have also about 80% of people, yeah, in Vietnam, they are using, yeah, internet, and they use a smartphone. The number of smartphone in Vietnam even, yeah, more than the number of, yeah, population in Vietnam as well. So we have a young people. They are very tech savvy, and we have also very good, yeah, how to say that, workforce in the technology, yeah, industry as well. So that's why I think in last year, in 2023, as you may know from chain analysis, we are the third, yeah, largest country in the world with the number of population who use the virtual asset wallet. And we have about around 120 billion USD, yeah, value of the virtual asset, yeah, inflow into the wallet, yeah, owned by a Vietnamese owner, or the has IP in Vietnam. Also in terms of the cryptocurrency gain in 2023, we rank also number 3. Yeah, I think about 1.2 billion USD. Yeah, after US and UK. Yeah, so I think now in Vietnam we have a huge communities of Vietnamese people, especially the young people, normally from 15 to about 35, yeah, years. They very active in the crypto market. So I think that's why I think in recent year the government started, yeah, paying much attention to this area, and we are in Vietnam Blockchain Association. We are working very actively, yeah, to support and to help the government to step by step to improve, yeah, the legal framework for the blockchain industry in general, and crypto asset, or virtual asset in particular in Vietnam. However, until now, we have not yet have a kind of the full legal framework, yeah, for this. But the government, as we understand that, they are going to issue or to pass to approve very soon their blockchain, the strategy for developing blockchain technology in Vietnam. I think hopefully they will approve within this year, 2024. And they are also, you know, preparing the new kind of the digital technology industry law. Yeah, and we hope that they will issue or they will approve in 2025. So that in that new law, you know, we expect that we can work with the government to have a kind of, you know, legal framework for the virtual asset in Vietnam. That's what we are doing now. And in 2023 and 2024, yeah, Vietnam Blockchain Association, we did organize about 7 workshop and seminar, yeah, attracted about 5,000 people coming from many different stakeholders in the country, including the government, the parliament, and also the public, to understand about the virtual asset and virtual asset service provider and the lesson learned from other country. Yeah, so we try to educate the people in the market and to help them to understand and to work together to build a new legal framework for Vietnam. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Big changes to come. I'll definitely be watching that space. We are coming to the top of the hour, so I'm worried we're going to run out of time. But Mark, I really wanted to come back to what you mentioned before about sandboxes in the Philippines. You mentioned before that the Philippines has been quite an early adopter in terms of crypto-friendly regulation, but that space is evolving a lot. So I'd love to know how much of the sandbox initiatives are playing into some of that evolving approach, and also what role the Blockchain Council of the Philippines plays in terms of helping bring forward some of those initiatives.
Sure, thanks, Leah. I'll make this quick. Right. So yeah, I'd like to say that the Philippines has always been cautiously optimistic about blockchain technology here, which has been reflected into the Philippines regulators' various crypto regulations, which includes, as you mentioned, sandbox licensing. This also echoes the treatment of crypto in our neighboring APAC countries. As far as I'm aware, none of them have banned crypto, so as the Philippines, and have all issued similar virtual asset service provider regulations and frameworks to govern licensing and minimum compliance standards in AML, CFT, cybersecurity, as well as financial consumer protection. So Leah, definitely, there are jurisdictions like, of course, Singapore, which has more robust frameworks when it comes to IT and cybersecurity standards. But I'd like to think again that our SECs, as mentioned, forthcoming DASSP, or the Digital Asset Service Security Service Providers Rule, is a mouthful, no? Will match this robustness, but that has yet to be seen. Overall, Leah, the Philippines remain a crypto-friendly jurisdiction, with our government even embracing this technology in the issuance of financial instruments like, believe it or not, like blockchain-based treasury bonds and the Project Aguila, or the wholesale central bank digital currencies, BDCs, that has been out in the press of late. And of course, as mentioned, Sandbox, the first Philippine approved pilot Philippine peso-backed stablecoin named PHPC, has been approved last May 9, 2024. Well, for Blockchain Council, we have been very active, right, in coordinating with our regulators, and really engaging with them and with our members as well. So regulators, the public sector, and of course with our members, the private sector.
I think the PHP-backed stablecoin is a very interesting one too, because I would imagine a common thread across all these countries too is the inflow of remittance payments and the amount of overseas workers that are sending money home. So having those kind of cross-border rails to be able to make it faster, cheaper, easier for people to be able to send money home, massive innovation.
It's very important. I'm sure you know that, that's a massive market here. The Philippines is one of the top recipients of remittances worldwide, because of course of our OFWs, overseas Filipino workers. So just imagine, just the use of blockchain, this will streamline remittance services, reduce fees, and of course transaction times, Leah.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. Look, guys, unfortunately, we're coming to the top of the hour. This has been an absolutely brilliant conversation. I wish we had more time because I still had more questions about regional cooperation, all those things. So maybe we'll just have to come back later, Amy Rose. Before we go, can everyone just give me a quick smile? We're going to have a big group photo. Beautiful. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me back, Amy Rose. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much. Everyone, all attendees, look, that was Philippines, Indonesia, and Vietnam. Thank you so much, Leah, Asir, I think it is pronounced, Quynh and Mark. That it's just been amazing. I really appreciate your time. We're going to move over to India. Oh, thank you. We're going to move over to India now. We have Nishi Chan from Crypto.com, who is going to be doing an interview with Mr. Dilip Chinoy. So we're going to head over to that session now. Those who have scheduled a booking for there, I will see you shortly.